Open Finance Committee to order. And you have the report materials. So it's a matter of deciding whether we go ahead with our tax sale or do we, defer it for a year. And I'm going to turn it over to staff, but what I'm told by staff is we can't pick and choose and say some of them we would have the tax sale and others we wouldn't. So we either have it all or nothing. And if we decide that we're going to put it off, we can't say, well, okay, we'll put it off for 90 days. It's either put it off for a year or have it now, in the third week in September when it's currently scheduled. So, Ivy or Andrew, do you want to comment?
Yes, Your Worship. We have had quite a bit of success in collecting the delinquent balances. As of today, we have 120 properties still remaining on our delinquent list. In total, the outstanding balance is worth $436,000. I can give you a breakdown if you would like. 68 of the properties have mortgages on title. The 13 Crown properties are still on title, and that's merely because staff have not dedicated our efforts in trying to collect that. We were more concerned about all the others that we were more concerned in trying to track down all the property owners and advise them of the potential tax sale. In total, we still have 39 properties that don't have any mortgages outstanding and are not owned by the Crown. Of those 39 properties, 27 of them are first-time offenders. Of the 27, we know for a fact that 5 of them are owned by seniors, and 10 of them, we cannot find the owners at all. Our bills are being returned as return to sender. So we would need to do a lot more detailed searches in order to find them. 6 properties are ones who stated that they have financial difficulties or COVID related, and 6 properties are repeat offenders.
Ivy, this may be approximate, but you started off with a large number last year and ended up with about 10 or 12. How was it at this time last year compared to this, roughly?
Your Worship, I believe this year is a little bit, it's more than last year. We have more people that we can't find this year than last year.
Okay, I've got a question, Councillor McNulty. And by the way, I'm sorry. We are being live streamed. Councillor McNulty.
Okay, I'll ask my second question first. Why can't we find them? Is there a reason why we can't find them? Are these numbered companies or people offshore?
Through Your Worship to Councillor McNulty, usually we try to find the property owners based on the homeowner grants that the individual has claimed. In these cases, these are new owners. They have never they've never claimed a homeowner grant. And in some cases, because it's a new owner, it could be that at the time they registered title onto the property, the law firm or the conveyancer may have put an address of the owner that is no longer where the owner lives. So we have not been able to reach the owner. So we'll just need to do some serious door knocking in order to find these people.
That actually brings up a whole nother issue, which I think we need to explore down the road. Would BC Assessment have the information?
The information that BC Assessment has, they have provided us. and we are doing our searches based on the information that they have. So our bills are being sent to the addresses that BC Assessment has on title.
Okay. A question through your worship to you, what I was going to ask. These people are here because they have had, they did not pay their taxes for 3 years. Am I not correct?
That's correct.
Have we ever given somebody a 4th year if we postpone this for a year or whatever?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, we're not allowed to do that. The legislation is quite thorough in that we must sell all properties at tax sale that has 3 years of outstanding taxes.
So we can't delay it then?
Where in the past, we have never been able to delay it. It was only this year with COVID that the province has changed their legislation in order for us to
So
delay
it's
it.
not a matter of course, it's an exception at the moment this year. I'm looking at the bylaw, what we're supposed to, we're going to look at, because you mentioned the status quo. What does the status quo mean then? We have a tax sale?
Correct.
Okay. And then you said defer the annual tax sale is number 2. You just told me we can't do it.
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, in the report, it says that this year, the province has given the authority to all municipalities, if they choose to defer this year's tax sale.
So that could be 1 calendar year then to this time next year.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ivy, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they go through tax sale this year, they've still got a year to redeem their property by paying the old taxes and the interest and the charges, that stuff, correct?
That's correct. They have 1 year to redeem, and the amount that they must pay would no longer be the delinquent taxes. It would be all taxes that is on title, plus interest based on whatever the successful bidder bids onto the property.
All right, Councillor Day, and Bill, your hand is still up.
Thank you very much. Okay, so you were saying that everyone on the list has not paid their taxes for 3 years, but some of them are new owners and they've never paid taxes in 3 years?
So your worship to Councillor Day, that's correct.
Okay, and then, thank you. And then you also mentioned that there were 6 owners who say they have financial problems due to COVID, but that doesn't relate to the first 2 years, only to the 3rd year. Isn't that correct?
Councillor Day, I believe I said that they were either COVID or financially related. So there are some that have indicated that they have had financial difficulties in the past because their business is going, is not doing so well. So instead of paying us, they had put the money into their business. However, with COVID and the fact that they had to close down for their business for a number of months, they are now further into debt.
Okay, thank you very much for that information.
Okay, Carol, your hand's still up. Councillor Green.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify with staff because this was printed on August 18th. On page 5, there's the amount to be collected is $921,000, but I'm assuming people have paid since then. So what was that figure again?
Through
436.
Yeah.
Through your worship to Councillor Green, today, as of today, we have 436,000 outstanding.
And then what, like, if we don't collect that, what happens to the city's budget? We have to figure out how to cut 400 and change from the budget to be able to avoid a tax increase.
Through your worship to Councillor Green, I don't think it has a significant impact to the budget. 436,000, we would be getting interest on that money. So in the end, I don't believe it would be any impact to our budget.
Okay, and like, I mean, that amount is secured anyway. It's not an unsecured loan.
That's correct.
Do we know how many people are we doing all right with people paying their taxes this year? This is because this is the 3-year-old balances, but what does this year look like in context?
Currently, we have about 70% collected.
It's not very strong.
Well, they have until September 30th to pay. The
Okay.
majority of the outstanding balances are from commercial or non-residential properties. With residential properties, we've collected over 80%.
Okay, so is so we're on track then for this year, for where we would be with how close we are to the due date.
That's correct.
Okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Check, Councillor Ho.
Yes, I want to ask a question. For those people who owe us the property tax, are they also owing us on the utility bill? Especially for the 10 premises that we could not find the owners.
Through your worship to Councillor Au, yes, those customers are also owing in utility balances. What happens at the end of the year is if there is a utility balance outstanding on their account, it gets rolled into property tax accounts. So what you see in current and arrears and delinquent are balances with the utility amounts included in there.
Thank you.
Councillor Steves, check your hand. Kelly and check your hands are still up.
Yeah, question. What happens if we defer it for a year? Do they only have to pay back 1 year next year or would they have to pay 2 years of taxes next year?
Through your worship to Councillor Steves, they would need to pay 2 years of outstanding taxes next year.
2 years. The other question I've got is, over the years we've seen, and I don't know if any of them fit this now, we've seen actually businesses that would leave it to the third year every year, and so every year they'd be a couple of years late. Are there any like that were right up to the wire last year too?
Currently, we have 6 properties that are in that situation.
Yeah, so that's the ones that are basically are borrowing against the city every year.
We started out with a lot more than 6. And the fact that there is a potential of advertising their property in the newspaper, it kind of encouraged everybody to come and pay earlier this year.
Thanks.
Councillor Wolf.
Through you to staff, I heard in the Richmond News about this, that a number of other municipalities have decided to defer. Do you know, are there any that have chosen to go ahead in the surrounding area?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, currently only Abbotsford and Surrey will be going forward with a tax sale.
Okay. Well, in further answer to that question, I was given through the MFA, I was given UBCM and a number of other organizations canvassed all over the province. And so the question was, does your municipality plan to delay the 2020 tax sale by 1 year? 37% said no, 41% said yes, and 20% were unsure at that time. Now those figures have probably changed, but that's some indication. That's some indication that people are all over the place on this one. Now let's see. Okay, Ivy, I'm interested. If there's a conveyance of the property, there's always an adjustment in the payment of taxes. Why? What's the context for there being a new owner and still the taxes are delinquent?
To your worship, the taxes are delinquent as a result of the fact that these are new owners. So when they purchased the property, taxes were paid in full. They now have owned the property for 3 years. So now their taxes are delinquent because they've never made a payment on their taxes. Now, in some cases, we find that it's because the address on title is incorrect in the first place. The owner never realized that they never got a bill. sometimes some are first-time property owners and they really didn't know that there were taxes outstanding. And others, they just rely on getting a bill in the mail. If they don't receive it, they're not going to question it.
Well, I think a lot of legwork is going to solve a lot of that problem, frankly. The other thing is you talked about the seniors that don't, that are on your list, that remain on your list. Now they can all apply for a deferral, can't they? The provincial program, and that will then, pay all the taxes, right?
In general, yes. If they are a senior living in the home, they can apply for a tax deferral. Unfortunately, some of the seniors have moved into a senior's home because the house is no longer their principal residence. They can no longer defer those taxes. They must pay the current year's taxes to the city. We were successful in finding one, and they didn't know, like the family members weren't aware of the fact that the senior was not paying their taxes. They know that the senior is now in the home, and as a result, they are rushing in as we speak to try to pay off the delinquent balance so the house isn't sold. So again, those are ones where we have to do some serious digging in order to find where the senior is. Another one we know is owned by a senior. According to her homeowner grant, she should be 101-year-old this year. So we're not quite sure who or where we can go to try to locate this senior. So there are a few of these extenuating circumstances.
Well, I just point out the obvious. We're not talking about 1 year's taxes, so we're not talking about a COVID situation. We're talking about 3 years taxes, and all they have to do is pay 1 year to hold off on a tax sale if it's conducted this year. Linda, Councilor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to staff. Well, thank you for the incredible amount of information that you've given us and lots to think about. And I think you mentioned there was 27 first-time people on the list. Now, how does that compare to previous years?
In previous years, we have probably around the same number every year.
Thank you. It's unfortunate that we can't pick and choose because I certainly do have sympathy for people who are in, financial circumstances due to COVID and for seniors. But I think that we should proceed with the tax sale. And is there anything that we can do? Have you heard from any of your colleagues about the repeat offenders? Because I think that really, and it really annoys me that people take advantage of this system that's in place.
I have attended tax collectors forums where we discuss this, and every municipality is trying to deal with the same situation. Yes, there are a lot of repeat offenders, and that seemed to be a case for most municipalities.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'll come back to you, Linda, in just 1 sec, but I just want to point out, you've got 120 properties, 68 have mortgages, so they're all going to be paid. And the 13 crowns are all going to be paid. So that brings us down to 39. And last year there was, a dozen or 10 or 12 in the end?
Last year we had 3.
3. Okay, but we're going to be in a low number this year as well, as long as we approach it. So Linda, do you want to move then the recommendation number 1?
Yes. Proceed with the tax sale.
So that would be moved into second. And do we have a seconder on that? We've got a seconder. Okay, people can speak to that if they would so wish. Councillor Day.
Yeah, thank you.
You're muted, Carol.
That I wasn't so sure I could support this, but when I look at the numbers and come to realize that this is not really COVID related, this is basically it's people that don't pay for 3 years in a row. So, and I believe that if only 3 were sold last year, and you've still got that 1 year to buy your house back, then I think that is being more than reasonable. And so I'm going to support this today because I think that the numbers justify it. Thank you.
Councilor McNulty?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to support that. I seconded it, and I think it's the prudent thing to do. We do need to collect. We do need to have, although we sympathize with some people, but people have made their choices not to pay taxes. And when I hear we can't find some people, that really concerns me. And that's why I want to put these numbered companies forward, and then we have names and addresses, and we know who's in our community. But it's interesting, and thank you for staff for saying they're not paying utilities. So really, we're subsidizing these people as taxpayers, and the greater number of people in the community are subsidizing them. And there's no guarantee the issue will be solved by postponing it. And it's interesting, if I pay 1 year, I get 4, if indeed we postpone it. That's pretty good business. If I wanted to manage and utilize my money, not saying anybody's creative enough to do so, but we as governors of the city need to be fiscally responsible to the rest of the taxpayers in Richmond. And they've gone to pay it, and their taxes. And yes, there are circumstances, but people manage it. But to look at it over 3 years and to know that it possibly could come up to a tax sale, I think people would mitigate their situation. So I'm in forward to going ahead. We need to continue to dig, and I ask staff to continue to dig and maybe solve some of these people's issues. But I think we have to schedule the sale as it's indicated by staff. And I want to at this time thank staff for doing all the copious amount of work, because I would know how difficult it is to get us down to this stage. We're in some good, relatively good position, but 436,000, I think was brought up earlier. That could mean we cut programs. That could mean we cut grants. That could mean we do whatever. I think we need the money, and we need to be fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Steve. Bill, your hand's still up.
I'm up. I want to talk. I support going ahead with this as well. This has been with us for decades. It first came to my attention in 1973, believe it or not, when a lot of farmland was going up, and elderly people that owned larger properties were having difficulties. And it was the NDP government, the Barrett government, that brought in the tax deferral for seniors based on Mrs. Urquhart, who had an acre on Steveston Highway, and she was able to live out her days in her house and defer her taxes. And we've had that ever since, and I've tried to encourage seniors ever since that happened in 1973 to not worry about your taxes, defer your taxes. Your property is going up more than the taxes are worth every year, and simply defer it. Don't worry about it. The one senior that's moved out, that I think that's about the only one I've got sympathy with in terms of this entire list, because they don't get deferred taxes because they don't live there. But it seems to me it's up to that person's family to cover the taxes if they're maintaining, someone's maintaining the ownership of the house. I think that's their family matter to deal with. So I certainly support going ahead with the annual tax sale.
Okay, Councilor Wolf.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to hear all the information that staff provided us today, and I'm going to, at this point, be opposed to going ahead with the tax sale. There are some on the list who have listed the reasons of COVID and other financial hardship, and and people who we are unable to get back to the country and in contact with. I think this is an exceptional time. There's delays on many things, and the city now has this opportunity to do this for some of our businesses, rather than give them a much more work to do to get it back and to get things back on track. I think just delaying it eases the system of promoting business in the city. So I agree with the comments that have been said on the opposite side as well. But I think I'm leaning to oppose the motion on the floor. Thanks.
All right.
Melton, can I say something?
Once I finish what I'm going to say, yes. Harold, your hand is still up. Councillor Green?
I just wanted to clarify with staff, just based on some other comments that were made. The $436,000 has 5.45% interest that's being generated for the city, and it's secured, which means it's a guaranteed return. And that it was said that it would not affect our budget. And so I want to confirm that is the fact, that we're not going to run into trouble.
That is correct, Councillor Green.
Okay, so a guaranteed interest or a guaranteed rate of return of 5.45% is far above inflation. So it seems like that's a pretty good, like you couldn't go to a bank and get a GIC for 5.45%. So if it's secured and it's not going to affect our budget, and there are people that are caught up in perhaps they did intend on paying this year, and it is an ongoing problem. But the fact is that they're way less likely to be able to make that payment on a year that has been extraordinary. So I'm inclined to put it off for a year, and then we can revisit this. But I'm hoping though that in the meantime, if it is, if we do put it off for a year, is that staff are still working hard to find the people that perhaps are caught out of country and can't get back, and are or otherwise disadvantaged economically because of COVID. Thank you.
Councillor Howe?
I want to ask a question first. So if we're going to defer this for a year.
Just a minute. I'm sorry. Start again. I didn't have your microphone on. And Councillor Green, your hand is still up. Please start again. Sorry, Jack.
Okay. Now, I want to ask a question first. If we are going to defer this for 1 year, it doesn't mean staff will stop trying to find those people or to solve their problem, right? I mean, staff won't wait for another year before they do the searching again.
Through your worship to Councillor Al, no, staff would not stop the search. That would give staff more time to look at different ways of finding the property owner without the pressure of the fact that they will be sold at tax sale. So that just buys us a little more time to do the digging.
Good, thank you. So I am not going to support the motion. I think it's better to defer it for a year, for the reason that, this is a very exceptional year. Yes, maybe it's not everything COVID related, because for the reason for not being paid. So, but still, there are people who might be in financial difficulty because of this exceptional situation. So I think it's better to give them more time. And also, I don't think the taxpayers are subsidizing these people because they are being fined for the delinquent amount. So I think giving them more time and give our staff more time is very good. So I will not be supporting.
Okay. I am going to support this motion. If I would feel differently if this were a 1 year problem, but it's a 3 year problem. And I realize there have been some extraordinary circumstances this last year, or the past 6 months anyway. But the fact is, they haven't paid their taxes for 3 years. And certainly, the payment of taxes, like anything else on your house, is the owner's responsibility. And I've heard Ivy Wong talk about all the steps you've taken to try and find them, and it sounds like there's going to be more to come. But the fact is, these owners, many of whom have free and clear houses or properties, it's their responsibility to pay. And secondly, if we put this off for a year, you're really probably going to put it off, for another year after that, because they've got a year. That second year, they've got that year to redeem. So it just goes on and on. So as I say, if it was just a 1 year deal, I would feel differently. With it being a 3 year deal, it becomes, frankly, a strategy. And I just think that people have to show more responsibility than that. So with that, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor, I'll ask you to raise your hand. We haven't, okay, so I've got Councillor Steves, McNulty, Day, McPhail. Councillor Liu, are you in favor or not in favor?
I'm opposed.
Okay, so then I'll ask you, those opposed. So it's Councillor Au, Councillor Wolf, Councillor Green, and Councillor Liu opposed. So that is carried. So that's it. So with that, remember, we're going to go into a special council meeting to confirm this from a council point of view. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Ask resolution to adjourn. Okay, so it's moved and seconded. We're now adjourned. And I'll call back to order the open special council meeting. And it's just the one item.
Move the recommendation.
So that's moved and seconded. Let's see your hands. Okay, all those in favor, which is ratification of the previous motion. Okay, those opposed. So that is carried with the same in favor and the same opposed. And I think that's it. Will someone move adjournment?
So move.
We're now adjourned. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you, in a week and a half or something. Thank you.